Walmart spends billions on supply chain technology. Tesco employs more people than the British Army. Kroger has been selling groceries since 1883, and every single one of them is afraid of a store that stocks fewer products than your average pharmacy. Aldi operates roughly 1,800 SKUs, stock-keeping units, meaning distinct products. The average American supermarket carries around 30,000. Aldi's selection is, by comparison, almost insultingly small. And yet in market after market it wins on price, it wins on efficiency, and it wins on customer loyalty. The industry has been trying to explain this for 50 years. To understand why, you have to go back to 1945. Essen, Germany, a city that had been bombed 272 times during the Second World War. The infrastructure is rubble. The economy is in pieces. And two brothers, Karl and Theo Albrecht, have just inherited their mother's small grocery store. The store sold basics: bread, butter, flour. No frills, no credit, no nonsense. The brothers had no capital to expand dramatically, so they did what people with no capital always do when they're smart. They got precise. Every cost was examined. Every inefficiency was eliminated, not as a temporary measure, as a permanent philosophy. By 1950, they had expanded to 4 stores. By 1955, 13. By 1960, they were operating over 300 locations across West Germany. This was not a fluke. This was a system. And the system had a name: Aldi, short for Albrecht Discount, Albrecht Discount. They put the operating model right there in the name, and most of their competitors still didn't take it seriously. Then came the split. In 1961, Karl and Theo disagreed about whether to sell cigarettes. Whether to sell cigarettes. It sounds almost comedic in retrospect. But the disagreement was genuine, the tension was real, and the resolution was permanent. They divided the business in two. Karl took the south. Theo took the north. Aldi Süd and Aldi Nord were born. The split did not weaken them. It created two parallel machines, both operating on the same core philosophy, now competing independently in different territories. When Aldi Nord eventually expanded into France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and Spain, and Aldi Süd expanded into the UK, Australia, and the United States, they entered those markets as separate entities. Most shoppers still don't know they're different companies. The Albrecht brothers accidentally invented a franchise model by having an argument about tobacco. Now let's talk about the actual strategy, because this is where most explanations of Aldi stop at "they're cheap" and move on. That is not the story. The story is how they are cheap, and it is, frankly, a masterpiece of operational control. Rule 1. Limit the range. 1,800 products versus 30,000 means Aldi can negotiate enormous volume deals with suppliers for every single item it carries. When you are the only buyer of a product at scale and you buy in massive quantities, you have leverage. Aldi uses that leverage without mercy. Suppliers either meet the price point or they don't get the contract. There is no negotiating charm offensive. There is a number. Rule 2. Own the brand. Roughly 90% of Aldi's products are private label, meaning Aldi's own brand, not a national name. This is not accidental, and it is not just about cost. It is about power. When you sell someone else's branded product, that brand has leverage over you. When you sell your own product, you control the margin, the spec, and the supplier relationship entirely. Aldi understood this in the 1950s. Most retailers are still arguing about it today. Rule 3. Eliminate theater. Traditional supermarkets are in large part a performance, elaborate displays, loyalty card systems that cost hundreds of millions to operate, in-store bakeries, sushi counters, floral departments. All of it costs money, and all of that cost ends up in the price of a box of cereal. Aldi sells the cereal from the shipping box it arrived in. The display is the box. The store design budget is approximately zero. Rule 4. Respect the staff by paying them properly and hiring fewer of them. Aldi pays its store workers above the industry average in the U.S. Starting wages have been reported at $18 per hour or more, well above competitors. but each store operates with a skeleton crew because the system is designed to need fewer people. Cross-training is mandatory. Efficiency is not a talking point. It is how the store functions by design. The result is an operating cost structure that is, by most estimates, around 40% lower than a conventional supermarket. That gap goes directly into the price on the shelf, not into a sale, not into a coupon, into the everyday price permanently. This is not promotional discounting. This is structural cheapness. Competitors cannot match it without dismantling themselves. For decades, the major chains looked at Aldi the way established industries always look at disciplined, low-cost disruptors, as a niche product for people who couldn't afford better. Tesco executives reportedly referred to Aldi as serving the value-led shopper, which is the polite corporate way of saying poor people. This was, to put it gently, a miscalculation. The turning point came in 2008. The global financial crisis hit household incomes hard across the UK, Europe, and the United States. People who had previously shopped at Tesco, Sainsbury's, and Waitrose began trying Aldi because they had to. And then they kept going back. Not because they had to, because the food was good. Between 2008 and 2014, Aldi's UK market share roughly doubled. By 2022, Aldi had become the fourth largest supermarket in the United Kingdom, overtaking Morrison's, a chain with 70 years of British history, to claim that position. Let that sit for a moment. A German discount grocer with no loyalty card and displays made of cardboard boxes became the fourth largest supermarket in Britain. In the United States, the trajectory is similar. Aldi entered the American market in 1976, was largely ignored, and then quietly expanded for decades. By 2023, Aldi operated more than 2,300 U.S. stores and announced plans to become the third largest U.S. grocery chain by store count by 2028, surpassing Kroger. Kroger, the chain that has been in business since before the invention of the automobile. The response from incumbents has been, in a word, panicked. Tesco launched its own deep discount format, Jack's, in 2018. It closed all but 2 locations by 2021. Walmart has repeatedly restructured its own brand strategy in direct response to Aldi's private label playbook. Kroger has invested heavily in its Simple Truth private label brand, which now reportedly generates over $3 billion in annual sales. A brand that, without Aldi's competitive pressure, may never have been prioritized. Even the quality conversation has shifted. In blind taste tests conducted by consumer organizations in the UK and Germany, Aldi's own brand products have repeatedly beaten national brand equivalents. Their specially selected range has won awards against products that spend millions on advertising. The irony is nearly perfect. The store with no marketing budget keeps winning marketing industry awards for product quality. Meanwhile, the Albrecht family has stayed almost completely invisible. Karl Albrecht, who died in 2014, was for many years the wealthiest person in Germany, with a fortune estimated at over $25 billion. He gave almost no interviews. He attended almost no public events. The company does not hold press conferences. There are no splashy acquisitions, no celebrity partnerships, no Super Bowl advertisements. The Albrechts are, by every measure, the most powerful people in global retail that most people cannot name. And that invisibility is not accidental. It is part of the same philosophy that governs the stores. Every dollar spent on visibility is a dollar not spent on price. Every executive interview is a distraction from operations. The Albrechts did not build a brand. They built a system, and they protected it by refusing to let ego anywhere near it. A discipline so rare in modern business it almost doesn't seem real. Here is the lesson. Aldi did not win by being better at what supermarkets do. It won by deciding that most of what supermarkets do is theater, expensive, unnecessary, customer-funded theater, and refusing to participate. The insight is brutal in its simplicity. If you remove every cost that doesn't directly serve the customer, you get a lower price. And a lower price, sustained permanently and built into the structure, is almost impossible to compete with. Everybody in retail knows this. Almost nobody in retail has been willing to actually do it, because doing it means admitting that decades of investment in loyalty programs, store design, and brand partnerships were not creating value. They were just creating complexity. And complexity, it turns out, is very expensive. Aldi's competitors paid for that lesson. Their customers paid for it too. If you want to see what happens when a company does the opposite, when it mistakes complexity for sophistication and scale for strategy, the story of Sears is waiting. One of the greatest retail empires in American history, destroyed not by a competitor but by a hedge fund manager who had read too much Ayn Rand. That story is next. Subscribe for more hidden empires.